Welcome to Out of the Blue number 469.75. Continuing on page 59. Look, darling auntie, it is God's will that you should see, she softly whispered, not once turning her eyes away from the scene before her. He let me be the one to show you the glory of this place. I turned and looked, like one but half awakened. Before us spread a lake as smooth as glass, but flooded with golden glory caught from the heavens that made it like a sea of molten gold. The blossom and fruit-bearing trees grew down to its very border in many places, and far, far away across its shining waters arose the domes and spires of what seemed to be a mighty city. Many people were resting upon its flowery banks, and on the surface of the water were boats of wonderful structure, filled with many happy souls and propelled by an unseen power. Little children, as well as grown persons, were floating upon or swimming in the water. And as we looked, a band of singing cherubs floated high overhead. Sorry. Singing cherubs. You don't see this anywhere but her book. This is the only place in all these books and readings I've seen bands of singing cherubs in the sky, but continue here. Little children, as well as grown persons, were floating upon or swimming in the water. And as we looked, a band of singing cherubs, floating high overhead, drifted across the lake, their baby voices borne to us where we stood in notes of joyous praise. Come, said May, seizing my hand, let us join them. And we hastened onward. Glory and honor, sang the voices, dominion and power, caught up and answered the voices of the vast multitude together. And in the strain I found that May and I were joining. The cherub band floated onward, and away in the distance we caught the faint melody of their sweet voices and the stronger cadence of the response from those waiting below. So you see what's happening here. These people are on the shore of the lake, and a band of, like a cloud of singing cherubs floats over, and the people on the shore are singing along with them. So, going on, we stood upon the margin of the lake, and my cheeks were we stood upon the margin of the lake, and my cheeks were tear bedewed. Her cheeks were tear bedewed. Sorry, let's try again. We stood upon the margin of the lake, and my cheeks were tear bedewed, and my eyes dim with emotion. I felt weak as a little child. But oh, what rapture, what joy unspeakable filled and overmastered me. Was I dreaming? Or was this indeed but another phase of the immortal life? May slipped her arm around my neck and whispered, Dearest, come. After the rapture, rest. I yielded to her passively. I could not do otherwise. She led me into the water, down into its crystal depths, and when it seemed that we must be hundreds of feet beneath the surface, she threw herself prostrate and bade me do the same. I did so, and immediately we began to slowly rise. Presently I found that we no longer rose, but were slowly floating in mid-current, many feet still beneath the surface. Then appeared to me a marvel. Look where I would, perfect prismatic rays surrounded me. I seemed to be resting in the heart of a prism, in such vivid yet delicate coloring mortal eyes never rested upon. Instead of the 7 colors as we see them here, the colors blended in such rare graduation of shades as to make the rays seem almost infinite, or they really were so. I could not decide which. As I lay watching this marvelous panorama, for the colors deepened and faded like the lights of the aurora borealis, I was attracted by the sound of dim music. Although May and I no longer clung together, we did not drift apart as one would naturally suppose we might, but lay within easy speaking distance of each other, although few words were spoken by either of us. The silence seemed too sacred to be lightly broken. We lay upon, or rather within, the water, as upon the softest couch. It required no effort whatever to keep ourselves afloat. The gentle undulation of the waves soothed and rested us. When the distant music arrested my attention, I turned and looked at May. She smiled back at me but did not speak. Presently I caught the words, glory and honor, dominion and power, and I knew it was still the cherub choir, although they must now be many miles distant. Then the soft tones of a bell, a silver bell with silvery tongue, fell upon my ear, and as the last notes died away, I whispered, "Tell me, May." "Yes, I will. The waters of this lake catch the light in a most marvelous manner, as you have seen. A wiser head than mine must tell you why. They also transmit musical sounds, only musical sounds, for a great distance. The song was evidently from the distant shore of the lake. And the bell, that is the bell which is in the city. That is the bell which, in the city across the lake, calls to certain duties at this hour." "There was never a sweeter call to duty," I said. "Yes, its notes are beautiful. Hark, now it rings a chime." We lay and listened, and as we listened, a sweet spell wrapped me round, and I slept as peacefully as a child on its mother's bosom. I awoke with a strange sense of invigoration and strength. It was a feeling wholly dissimilar to that experience during my bath in the river, yet I could not explain how. May says, "One takes away the last of the earth life and prepares us for the life upon which we enter. The other fills us to overflowing with a draught from the celestial life itself." And I think the child was right. So let me explain here. They're talking about the river versus the lake. So she says, "I awoke with a strange sense of invigoration and strength. It was a feeling wholly dissimilar to that experience during a bath in the river, yet I could not explain how." May says, "One takes away the last of the earth life and prepares us for the life upon which we enter. The other fills us to overflowing with a draught of the celestial life itself." So in this same book, earlier, when her brother-in-law takes her up to heaven, the first thing to do is to take a swim in this river of life. That's earlier in the book. And so now she's in this lake. And to compare the two, I'll go on. It says, "One takes away the last of the earth life and prepares us for the life upon which we enter." That's the river. "The other, this lake, fills us to overflowing with a draught from the celestial life itself." She goes on, and I think the child was right. "When we emerged from the water, we found the banks of the lake almost deserted, everyone having gone, at the call of the bell, to the happy duties of the hour. Groups of children still played around in joyous freedom. Some climbed the trees that overhung the water, with the agility of squirrels and dropped with happy shouts of laughter into the lake, floating around on its surface like immense and beautiful water lilies or lotus flowers. No fear of harm or danger, no dread of ill or anxiety lest a mishap occur. Security, security, and joy and peace. This is indeed the blessed life, I said as we stood watching the sports of the happy children. All right. I'm going to start tomorrow, and I'm going to read this entire book, including the back cover and the front cover. So, thanks for listening. Let me just finish this page. She says, I often think how we were taught to believe that heaven was where we would wear crowns of gold and stand with harps always in our hands. Our crowns of gold are the halos his blessed presence casts about us, and we do not need harps to accentuate our songs of praise. We do see the crowns, and we do hear the angelic harps when and as God wills it, but our best worship is to do his blessed will, said May, as we turned to go. You are wise in the lore of heaven, my child, I said. And with that, we'll end, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks. See you. Bye.